home from the asylum every night, and he had a girlfriend named Rusty. Dusty and Rusty, they both dressed in white, and she was this much taller than he.
Calm, precise, unshakable, and that's the picture Hollywood painted of Robert Duvall for over 50 years. A man carved from stone, always in control. But at 94, the legend finally loosened the grip on his silence, and what slipped out shocked people who thought they had him figured out. He didn't just vent, he named names. 6 heavy hitters, 6 big personalities, and he called them the closest thing he ever had to straight up enemies. These weren't random folks. These were industry titans who pushed him, tested him, and at times nearly cracked the foundation he'd spent a lifetime building. Once you hear who made that list, you'll see exactly why Duvall's memories are way sharper than the calm roles he became famous for. And listen, this is just the beginning of his wild story. We're barely peeling back the first layer, and the next chapters get even deeper and messier. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss the upcoming drops on these hidden Hollywood histories. Al Pacino, when brotherhood collapsed into silence. Back in the 1970s, Robert Duvall and Al Pacino weren't just co-stars. They were tight like real brothers. They shared cheap meals, tiny apartments, early career stress, and then the massive glow-up that came with The Godfather. But everything cracked when talks for The Godfather Part 3 kicked off. Pacino was offered $5 million plus 5% of the profits, while Duvall was handed $1 million flat like he was just some background extra. That gap wasn't just money, it was disrespect, and it cut deeper than any shouting match ever could. Duvall didn't throw a fit, he didn't argue, he just stood up, gathered the paperwork, and dipped out without a sound. Hours later, Coppola receives a cold single fax. "I won't return just to decorate someone else's spotlight." Pacino didn't budge on his salary. Duvall refused to shrink himself for the family one more time, and that was it. The brotherhood snapped in half. When the film finally premiered, his absence hit the room instantly. Critics called it out, and the Chicago Tribune even wrote, "With Duvall gone, the moral center of the Corleone family vanished. They never fixed it. Not at reunions, not backstage at award shows, not even in quiet, private moments." 2 men who once fought through Hollywood side by side now slide past each other like complete strangers. They never repaired the fracture, not at reunions, not at award shows, not in private moments. 2 men who once survived Hollywood together now walk past each other like strangers. Francis Ford Coppola, the mentor who became a wound. There was a time when Duvall believed Coppola knew him better than anyone walking this planet. Coppola didn't just cast him, he chose him with intention, telling people, "That's the man I've been searching for." That line stayed with Duvall for years, like a badge of honor. But everything shifted during the punishing shoot of Apocalypse Now. In the scorching heat of that napalm sequence, Duvall's body finally gave out, lips split, skin burning, completely dehydrated. He collapsed in front of the crew, struggling just to breathe. And Coppola looked down with nothing but cold focus, saying, "Again, the light isn't right." That hit Duvall harder than the heat ever could. He pushed himself back up, staggered behind a tree, vomited blood, wiped his mouth, and walked right back into the scene like nothing happened. The movie went on to win the Palme d'Or, but something inside Duvall shifted forever. A piece of trust snapped and it never healed. A decade later, when the paid drama for Godfather 3 blew up, that old wound opened wide. Coppola tried to fix it. Letters, calls through friends, quiet attempts to rebuild that old magic they once shared. But Duvall didn't respond, not once, not ever. The mentor turned into a stranger. And the respect he once carried so proudly, that turned into a scar he never bothered to hide. Marlon Brando, the idol who unraveled before his eyes. When Duvall first crossed paths with Marlon Brando, he expected straight-up legend energy and the kind of presence that made rooms go silent. Instead, what he walked into was pure chaos wrapped in talent. Brando would roll in hours late, skip rehearsals like they were optional, and demand cue cards taped everywhere, walls, props, even other actors' backs. He drifted through scenes rewriting lines on the fly, while everyone else scrambled to keep up, trying not to look lost. To the world, Brando was the untouchable genius. But to Duvall, he was brilliance drenched in ego, a gift twisted by his own behavior. Then came the 1973 Oscars, Brando rejecting his award live on national TV while audiences gasped and clapped. Duvall leaned over to a friend and whispered, "He turned our work into a spectacle. It wasn't protest, it was theater." That moment sealed everything for him. Duvall never let that go. And when Brando passed in 2004, Duvall didn't show up to the funeral. He sent one simple card that said, "Let it end." A final line for a bond that had already shattered years before to Stanley Kubrick, the visionary Duvall straight up called an enemy. At a 2010 roundtable, Duvall dropped a line that froze the whole room in place. He said, clear as day, Kubrick was an enemy of actors. People gasped, some laughed nervously, others just stared, but Duvall didn't blink once. His frustration came from what he saw as Kubrick's cold style of control, the non-stop retakes, the heavy mental pressure, the emotional distance that made performers feel like props instead of people. After seeing behind-the-scenes footage of Shelley Duvall breaking down on The Shining, swinging that bat over 120 times while Kubrick yelled, Duvall said that wasn't directing, that was torment. He meant every word. Years earlier, Kubrick had invited him for a meeting about a possible role, but instead of talking character, emotion, or story, Kubrick spent 30 straight minutes rambling about lenses and camera setups. Not one sentence about the person who'd be playing the part. Duvall walked out of that room with a cold feeling in his chest, later saying, "The room felt like a morgue." To Duvall, Kubrick was a genius, no doubt, but he believed that genius had zero compassion, and that's what turned admiration into straight-up hostility. Robert De Niro, the silent war of two masters. Their feud was never flashy, never loud. It lived in small looks, interviews, and sharp little comments that only insiders caught. At one point, Duvall dropped a line that sounded harmless on the surface. "He's very good at playing Italians." But that wasn't a compliment. That was a quiet jab with teeth. What he really meant was that he saw De Niro's method as too extreme, too theatrical. Where De Niro would starve himself, pack on weight, shave his head, twist his voice, whatever it took, Duvall crafted characters through calm presence and calculated stillness. He once told an actor, "The work isn't in the body changes, it's in the silence." To Duvall, De Niro symbolized a new wave of acting that leaned more on spectacle than soul, transformation for the camera instead of truth from the heart. They stayed polite at events, shook hands when needed, kept everything smooth for the public. But underneath that calm, their artistic philosophies were miles apart, and they both knew it. Bruce Beresford, the director behind Duvall's bittersweet Oscar. Duvall earned his one and only Oscar for Tender Mercies, but ever since that shoot, he's kept a cold distance from director Bruce Beresford. Beresford kept pushing him through take after take, claiming the timing felt off, like Duvall wasn't hitting the rhythm he wanted. Duvall pushed back, telling him straight, "A drunk man doesn't speak slowly." But Beresford still wouldn't budge, standing firm like he knew the character better than the man playing him, so Duvall made his move. He slipped out at dawn, shot one of the film's key emotional scenes in secret. No crew heads, no debate, no director hovering over his shoulder. And that raw, quiet moment, the one Beresford didn't even know happened, became the heart of the entire movie and the performance that won Duvall the Oscar. When he stepped on that stage, Duvall thanked everyone except Bruce Beresford. The silence hit harder than any speech. The next morning, headlines everywhere screamed, "Duvall snubs Beresford at the Oscars." And that was the final chapter. They never teamed up again. Now the real question lands right in your hands. Was Duvall justified in cutting these 6 titans out of his world, or did all those years of silence turn small cracks into giant wounds that maybe could have been fixed? Did he protect his peace, or did he let pride freeze out people who once shaped his rise? Drop your take in the comments. I want to hear how you see it, because every angle on this story hits different. And if you haven't subscribed yet, tap that button so you don't miss the next chapter of Hollywood's wild, untold stories.